Good morning, everyone. I'm happy to see you here for this last day of COP. Of COP. We did it. Thank you and congrats. It's almost the end. I'm Nina Beltram. I will be your moderator for today's session on quality climate education for all in the Mediterranean region. And for this, we will go through a number of different, both formal and informal educational programs, tools, and initiatives that will be presented by our speakers. So there will be several presentations, and also you'll have the time at the end to ask your questions to the people online or on site. Before we start, I would like to remind every speaker to be please concise, and also please to introduce yourselves at the beginning, because we don't have much time, so I will let you introduce yourself. Also, I wanted to say a big thank you to the Mediterranean Pavilion, who is hosting the event today. That's a good opportunity for us as actors of education and also as civil society to express our voice during this scope. And to begin our session, I would like to introduce Mr. Joe Lobo, higher education expert at the Union for Mediterranean. Good morning, Joe. I think you are online. I would like to ask you to say maybe a few words about the union and maybe give us a little overview of what the union is doing in the higher education sector. And maybe you can elaborate a bit on an announcement and a declaration you are preparing for next year. The floor is yours.
Thank you very, very much. Yes, maybe just a few words about the framework of cooperation on higher education. So cooperation in higher education research has been one of the main priorities of the Union for the Mediterranean since its establishment back in 2008. So in spite of the fact that the UFM has never adopted a ministerial declaration on higher education, since the last one on the field dates from 2007, the Cairo Declaration, which was still developed under the Euromed partnership. So despite that, the UFM has promoted a regional dialogue, which has been active, especially in three main axes: academic mobility, employability, and enhancing cooperation through networks. In this dialogue are involved UFM member states, the EU, and all the relevant actors, which means universities, networks of universities. So the objective is to build a common vision on cooperation and mobility. Last year, we published a report on the internationalization of higher education in the Mediterranean, which includes country-specific and regional recommendation, and makes the case for a first ever UFM ministerial that may lay the basis for a renewed regional cooperation on higher education, and that could be a tool to give guidance to both policymakers and institutions by establishing clear priorities for cooperation. So almost 15 years have passed since this Cairo declarations. It's timely to rethink the needs and goals of higher education against current challenges and opportunities. And yes, there is a good news. The UFM senior officials agreed last month upon convening the first UFM ministerial meeting on higher education, which should take place in the last quarter of 23. This ministerial should acknowledge the achievements and developments of the past 15 years, but also affirm new commitments on the strategic importance of higher education for the development of human capital in the region. Such a ministerial has also considerable momentum at EU level, since the EU new agenda for the Mediterranean attaches importance to the field of education. Some of the biggest challenges faced by the region as adaptation to evolving needs in fields such as the new technologies or climate change call for improving the governance of the education systems. So alongside the preparation of this first ever UFM ministerial declaration on higher education, and its follow-up, which means a concrete implementation plan. The UFM Secretariat will launch a public consultation addressed to the main sectoral stakeholders, which means universities, networks of universities, networks of students. It should be launched soon in December and stay open until mid-January. So so we invite everybody, to participate in this survey, which should nourish then, of course, the declaration. The survey will contain a section on evaluating the past achievements, the past challenges, but especially giving proposals for the future on some specific areas which have been identified: digital education, governance, internationalization, inclusion, and of course, education for sustainable development and climate education. So I do invite all the higher education institutions in the region to participate in this consultation. Give your suggestions concerning the field of education for sustainable development and climate education. So just to add, as the last point, just telling that also a Mediterranean strategy for education on sustainable development was approved back in 2014 by the 42 UFM member countries on the occasion of the first UFM Ministerial on Environment and Climate Change. And since then, an action plan has been shaped. It continues to be implemented, and an updated action plan has just been approved in Cyprus last month during the UNECE Environment for Europe Ministerial Conference. And one of the key recommended activities of this action plan is to integrate sustainable development principles into the study programs of the universities, and to introduce, whenever necessary, special courses at all levels of higher education. So we really wait, for suggestions, for proposals during this consultation on climate education, on education for sustainable development, so that we can identify clear priorities in this matter. And this is just what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. I think this will interest maybe some people in the audience who I know are working for the higher education sector. Thank you very much for your insights on this. Now I would like to introduce you to Dr. Anita Geistzinger. Anita, I think you are online. You are from the University of Girona and the manager of the MEMED project. So you will explain a bit about this project in a few seconds, but first, can you explain to the audience what were the findings about climate education challenges in the Mediterranean at the origin of the project, and how does this project tackle those challenges?
Okay, thank you very much, Nina. As you all know, especially the participants of this COP27, in the Mediterranean basin, people are facing special pressure about the environment and all those issues, apart from the normal ones about water and pollution and air. Especially the desertification and deforestation and the biodiversity is a problem. And especially because the climate change is going 20% faster ahead than in other regions of the world. So climate change and environmental change is a hot topic in the area. On the other hand, we have discovered that the environmental sector is looking for new people, and there is a big gap and the labor potential in this area, and the labor and the environmental sector is especially growing in the southern Mediterranean area. And there is a high need of professionals and educated people to tackle with those things, with all those issues that we have with the climate change. On the other hand, we had the European Union, who was putting a focus and wanted to create a common space of research and education, and to focus on cooperation with Mediterranean countries, to cooperate and to make them ready for the future. So all that together with the need of the and the South Mediterranean shores. And as the speaker before already mentioned, there is a high need in the educational system in those countries. Of course, there were some master programs and educational programs in the higher education sector existing already before, but they were dealing mainly with specific, very specific aspects. And we thought it would be better to work more on a more holistic approach. And it is really necessary for the future to tackle all those problems with more holistic and with people who are better prepared for those things. And putting together all those topics, we thought it would be a good idea to create a project. And that was the moment when we created this consortium. As you can see here, our Mehmet project is an Erasmus Plus project, funded or co-funded by the European Union. And the members of this project consortium come from 6 different countries, 3 of them on the North Shore and 3 of them on the South Shore. So specifically, it was Spain, France, and Italy. And on the other side, we have Algeria, Morocco, and Tunisia. In this program, there are 8, from those partners, there are 8 universities in Algeria, Tunisia, and Morocco that participate and work together. Supported by the other universities from France, Italy, and Spain, of course. So what was the idea? The idea was to create, to develop and to implement the curriculum of the environmental change management in the Mediterranean in those 3 countries. The title of the project was Mediterranean Environmental Change Management, Master Study and Ecosystem Building, short Mehmet. The specific objectives are to develop and implement, of course, the curriculum, but also to increase the mobility, both of students and also the teachers, to promote the e-learning strategies, and to strengthen the relations between those countries, and also to the European Union. And finally, also to foster training teachers and students. So you were asking how we were tackling it. That were the ideas, those were the ideas and the planning. So how did we implement it? First of all, trying to create the curriculum of those master degrees. Then, of course, we had to train the teachers a bit. We were offering, or we were planning courses at their universities, and also through mobilities to come to EU countries and to give them the possibility for training. Unfortunately, there were some obstacles through the pandemic, but we have solved that online. Of course, it was a big issue, the different teaching tools and to introduce new methodologies, very interactive methodologies to work more on competencies, to focus on project-oriented and problem-oriented types of teaching. To introduce an e-learning platform was a very big issue. We have on our webpage also an e-learning platform where people can have the material and download it. Of course, it was very important, the training of the students, which should be multidisciplinary and cross-cutting. You can show the slides. So it was very important to have a transversal and multidisciplinary cross-cutting issue here. All the students were doing an internship either in the private sector, in the public sector, or in NGOs. Some of them even had the possibility to go abroad for 3 months and get contacts there and new experiences. At the end, they had to present the work and finally to get their degree. But we do not just want them to get a piece of paper of a certificate. We want them really to be prepared for the future, to be able to analyze problems and to tackle the new issues. So not just to study by heart, but to focus new things and to get prepared. Through dissemination activities, they could also get in contact, or the universities can get in contact directly with the private sector and the public sector. So those students should have better chances to get integrated in the labor market afterwards.
Anita,
So it's
I
not just
just take the opportunity. I'm sorry, we already run a bit out of time. I propose that maybe we keep the two last points for the questions at the end, so that people can also ask you specific questions about the Mehmet project. So sorry, I just would like to ensure that every speaker has time to speak. Thank you very much, Dr. Geistinger. We've heard about this Erasmus Plus program, and I think we have someone else online, Professor Rui Salgado from Portugal. Professor Salgado, you work in the Department of Physics at the University of Évora. And what I would like to ask you now more concretely is, as a professor and a researcher, is it possible to teach climate change to people without resorting to complex and difficult and very complicated mathematical expressions and concepts?
Good morning, everybody. I'm here talking from Portugal. May I have a little presentation? Can you show it or? Okay, thank you very much. So, okay. So this is a photo from my university here in the south of Portugal. And my objective is exactly, as you said, to discuss a little how to teach physics of climate change to people that do have a poor background in mathematics and physics. Okay, so the question is, as you pointed out, climate change is in the order of the day, and in particular here in the Mediterranean area, it's a very important issue. In the debate around the climate changes and the need to mitigate and adapt, there, as you all know, there is a lot of contradictory and even misleading information. So it is important to provide some basic knowledge to all the population, and in our case to the students. So, but you know that many of the students also in many fields, they have no background in physics or in mathematics. But at the same time, climate science and in particular the theory of climate change is of course based on in-depth knowledge of physics and mathematics. So it's a challenge to teach some complex concepts in a simple but at the same rigorous way. I'm working in this field from several years, and it's always not easy to do that. Can you show the next? Okay, but I try to today. It's for us here in Portugal. It's an honor because I learned climate physics from a great Portuguese scientist. It was José Pinto Peixoto, who celebrates his centenary this year, this month. And so he has a very important book in physics. It's Physics of Climate that we use always to teach climate. Of course, it's a Greek book, but we need to know some mathematics to learn it with it. So it is not serve our purpose, but we can use it. Namely, can you next slide, please? Next slide, please. Okay, so for example, this is from the book, and it's about the global energy budget. This is a thing that we must explain people, and this is people can understand this global energy budget even if you cannot go in depth. Can you next slide, please? So my proposal about this, and I think that it can be used in in studies of climate directed for a very big audience. It's to teach some following topics, trying to address it with a with rigor. So it was the global balances of energy, water, and CO2 in the climate system, and to try to explain the greenhouse effects of the atmosphere, because there are many confusion in the society about this. And another concept that it's very important to try to give to people, it's about what is relative forcing and how you use it to compare different kinds of forcings, from natural and anthropogenic forcings. And so another concept that it's very important, it's to try to give it the climate feedbacks, namely the feedbacks between the global warming and the ice. And so another thing that it's always complicated, but you have to try to explain what are the current its Earth system models based, and how and what phenomena they represent nowadays, and also how climate change is recognized and causes are attributed. These are some topics that I think it's essential that we can explain to people. So last slide, please. Okay, it's only to thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Rui. I don't know nothing in physics, but your proposals were enlightening, I think. And I'd like to move on to my fellow Climate First facilitator, Mrs. Farah Kamal, who is here with us today. And I would like to ask you, how do you react to what Rui just told us? And how does it relate as well to your volunteering work as Climate First facilitator and to the work of Climate First in general? It's already on. Should be.
Is it? Cool. Sorry, I'm not very tech friendly. So I think this is a very good point. Yes, definitely we need. I work with a professor. I work in a social enterprise that does eco-education through experiential activities. And through our work, we were working at some point with a professor that is part of the American University in Egypt. And she was teaching a course about climate change and was kind enough to do the course for us. But the thing is, the stuff that Professor Rui actually was talking about was far more apparent when I went through the Climate Fresk activities. So the Climate Fresk, if you don't know, is a game, a workshop that is built on collective intelligence. It is an activity where through a 3-hour workshop, and you can have a sample of it. We have a quiz outside. We figure out what we already know about climate change, and then also what is missing in our understanding of climate change. For something like radiative forcing is very quickly touched upon in the Climate Fresk, but these are very important, very important things to understand in order to understand when we're being fed incorrect information. Like several of our speakers were saying, there's a lot of misinformation, and misinformation is basically just capitalizing on the general public's lack of knowledge regarding climate change or on topics of climate change. So the cool thing about the Fresk is that it's built on the IPCC. It's very, very, very simplified. It could probably encourage people to take a course in climate change. But yes, a course in climate change needs to go into the details of how we talk about climate change, how we're talked to about climate change, and what the science is. But expecting everyone to do a course on climate change might be I don't want to. There's no way of saying this except it might be making it inaccessible for other people, even if they are laymen. We have a huge population in Egypt that does not experience higher education or will not be afforded the opportunity to talk about climate change during their higher education. and that means we're cutting down on our reach. So there is definitely a case for higher education to, and this is available in Masan AUC, which is a very like private university in Egypt. They have a course on climate change, but it is still not something that is required. It is something that you opt into as an elective on scientific thinking. But something like the climate frasque, which is available to anyone and can be deployed through universities but also through NGOs, might be more accessible, and then we can have the conversation about how to loop people into a fully academic format, I think. So I think there's strength in both. I just worry about who we lose in the conversation, especially if we rely just on academia or higher education.
Thank you very much, Farah. So we talked about the teaching itself and the different methods. We were in Portugal, but now let's move on to the governmental level of educational tools. And I think we will go in a few seconds to in Tunisia. We should have here with us online Mrs. Dekra Garbi from the Ministry of the Environment of Tunisia. And Mrs. Garbi, you are head of the EcoPact program. Very nice to see you online. I have two questions for you. What does the EcoPact program deal with? To which needs does it answer? And also, how does it scale up the impact of institutional climate education projects through the implication of civil society?
Thank you so much for giving me the floor, and also for the opportunity to speak about the Lake Bizerte depollution program through this interesting COP27 event. So firstly, the lake of Bizerte is a project in the field of depollution. It named actually EcoPact. It is the first investment program labeled UFM. EcoPact is a package of more than 40 projects in many fields of interventions in the north of Tunisia. We are dealing with sanitation, industrial depollution, coastal infrastructures, solid waste management, and also actions to improve local environment governance. These projects are realized by many national institutions, which are our partners in the program, such as the National Office for Sanitation, ONAS, the National Agency for Solid Waste Management, ANGED, the National Agency for Protection of Environment, AMPE, the National Agency for Protection of the coast. Also, the Ministry of Agriculture is one of our partners, and the industrial also are our partners. Adding to these partners, we have also the civil society, which is a very important partner for this program, because we are dealing with also actions to improve the governance, environmental governance in the area. So the Ministry of Environment through the Lake Bizerte program is the coordinator of the program, which is co-financed by the EIB, the EU, and the BERD, of course, with the contribution of the state of Tunisia. So to ensure the sustainability of our actions and being aware of the importance of changing citizen behavior to consider environmental protection and the concreteness of the climate change challenges of the climate change, EcoPact has set up funds in the form of grants to civil society to help build environmental and culture and climate culture. So actually, 11 projects are carrying on, involving about 30 NGOs. These projects have raised awareness about 1,000 young people around environmental and climate issues, including more than 600 girls. 120 teachers were also among the targets of our projects. The target of projects of the civil society. I don't forget also to mention the women in neighborhoods bordering the lagoon. We are also in the process of contributing to the realization of the Tunisian state policy in synergy with other programs such as EdenMed. IMPE is the coordinator of this program. This policy aims at a better consideration of environmental and climatic aspects in the school curricula. This contribution is made within the framework of the evaluation and capitalization of the efforts made for more than 20 years through the Ministry of the Environment and the agencies under its supervision, and through the strengthening of the collaboration with the Ministry of Education. In our opinion, environmental education remains an essential approach to solving environmental and climate problems. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Garbi. I think you'll have the opportunity to say a few words again after about the EdenMed project more in detail, right after some other questions. I'd like now to give the floor to Nancy Moussa, who is here with us today. Nancy, you are a Climate First country coordinator for Egypt, so basically you grow the community and you make everything happen here in Egypt. So Climate First belongs to the informal education, but as a tool it is also often used in the context of formal education, and it builds the bridge between both. My question would be, what do civil society initiatives like yours bring to existing institutional climate change educational programs?
Thank you for giving me the floor. I'm so glad to be here with you. So basically what we do at Climate Fresk is that we are an informal education, but we build the bridge. As Climate Fresk can be deployed anywhere, it's very easy to grasp. It's about the science of climate change. We do a workshop, it's a 3 hours workshop where we get to talk about everything in the field of climate change, and we get to draw all the connections. And it serves as the start for anyone who wants to learn about climate change and understand the science behind it. So I'll talk about myself. I used to study sustainable architecture, and we had many courses about climate change, but the tool, it was all textbook. So it did not resonate with me that much. I know that we had to do something about it, but I didn't know what was the problem at the beginning. It's like, I know the globe is warming, and I have to build buildings that have few carbon footprint. But when I played first Climate Fresk, honestly, it changed the course of my life, because I understood what I had to do perfectly. I even changed career to be solely sustainable architecture and sustainable business. I don't work in anything else but this. And that's why I really love the tool, and I wanted to volunteer there and just spread it everywhere. And thanks to Cedric, the creator of the game, and thanks for the association in France in supporting all the volunteers all around the world. Climate Fresk now is deployed in many universities around the world, such as the Imperial College in London. And in Egypt, we just started to do this as well. We work with the Goethe Institute in the German embassy. We started working with Save the Children. And there was a very good opportunity as they allowed us to work with a lot of students from many different governorates. And these students, okay, so two days ago, there was this kid from Save the Children on the stage, and she said that she knows about climate change, but she doesn't know where to research, what to do. And when they asked her, what do you want? She said, we as students, we need more resources. And then she played the game with us, with Climate Risk. And she finally understood everything and understood the topics that she should research more. So yes, this is the power of our tool. It's a 3 hours workshop based on scientific research, based on the IPCC reports, yet it's very straightforward. And how we play it makes people understand more, because it's not a text, it's not, excuse me, it's not like we lecture people. No, we just facilitate the space. We tell them how to play, we moderate, and they get to do errors and correct it. So that's why when people experience the climate risk, they come out with like a full understanding, not a full, like an understanding of what they want to research more and know more about. And yeah.
I think we can also say to the audience that on the slides that were here just 2 seconds ago, yeah, thank you. Those are examples from the workshops actually that we did this week during COP and also during the Conference of Youth. We always have good feedbacks, and it's also a very collaborative and fun moment, and that's also what we want the people to remember. Thank you very much, Nancy. Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, and there's a point that I did not mention, that we have a tailored program for schools and universities, which is called SECO, Climate Education Kickoff. It's basically the same that we do, Climate Fresk, but we get to train the teachers and give workshops to the students. And this is the bridge that we are working on between the informal and the formal education.
Thank you. Thank you for the additional information. So we've seen and heard about leveraging and empowering people by letting them become facilitators of Climate Fresk, for instance. I would like now to come back to you, Mrs. Garby, and to come back to innovative tools, as we can call them. And maybe now you can take 5 little minutes to explain us a little bit more about the EdenMed project and in how, to which extent it is innovative. You have the floor. If you you are mute, so you should just unmute yourself. It's good. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Unfortunately, this project EdenMed is coordinated by the IMPE, which is an institution under the Ministry of Environment. It involved a number of institutions in Tunisia and in Italy. In the national level, it is under collaboration between the Ministry of Environment and the Ministry of Education. And it is dealing at the first stage with an evaluation and a SWOT exercise to evaluate what was done and what are the strengths, what are the opportunities, what are the risks, and how to go on to do better with the education under the education system, the formal curricula, to strengthen or to improve environment and climate education. Maybe my colleague from IMPE can explain more, but unfortunately she's not with us.
It's fine. Maybe we can keep this time to maybe some more additional questions at the end. Thank you very much for giving us already some answering elements. So we are actually a bit on advance in our time, so I would maybe take we still have some minutes actually, and that will be the occasion for us to come back a bit on Climate Fresk, and a last question for you, Nancy, so that after we'll have actually an extensive period of questions and answer for you. So we talked about innovative tools. I mean, we wanted to talk about innovative tools. What's also innovative in the Climate Fresk workshop is the methodology. And I would like you maybe to explain to the audience to which extent it is innovative and what is the tools and the concepts that we bring during this workshop.
So in Climate Fresk, we use head, heart, and hands. Okay. So the participants, they get to think for themselves. We just give them, the first part is putting things in order. We give them a set of cards and they have to put them in order of causes and consequences. Then followed by 4 more sets. After they finish, they get to draw all the connections by themselves and do a creative part, which they get to draw, choose a title for their fresk. And I always like to mention this. Fresk comes from the word fresco, okay, which is a Roman art, that small tiles can do a full picture. And this is what our participants do. They complete their picture with all the cards, with all our cards has illustrations on them, infographs, all from the IPCC, and on the back we have bullet points and some information that can help them go through the workshop. And then after they finish the creative part, we sit all together and do a debrief. And this is the most important part in our workshop, which people get to express their feelings after knowing all what's happening and how everything is connected. And it's like the dominoes effect. We let them express themselves and they can feel whatever they want to feel. And then we take them from this part to action. We don't have any political stance and we don't offer solutions, and this is another strong point at our workshops, that we just brainstorm together and share ideas. So after sharing the emotions, we share the ideas and ask people what they want to put in action. And another thing why we don't offer solutions, because it depends on the setting and the knowledge of the person. So a schooler won't have the knowledge of a politician, and a politician won't they have more power than normal people. So it depends on everyone, their setting, where they live, what they do. They are free to take the course of action they want. So basically this is what we do in 3 hours, and how influential it is, and the power of Climate Fresk. And this is why we grow exponentially, is that anyone who attends a workshop, they can be a facilitators themselves and spread the word within their community. And this is how we grow our community here in Egypt and among 45 different countries. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nancy. Yeah, just to show you the quick number, and I'm maybe emphasizing on the university's number, because Nancy told 5 minutes ago that we recently organized the climate education kickoff at the Imperial College in London, and we also had the Strathclyde University, who just won the Green Gun Award for UK and Ireland after their organization of a climate education kickoff with Climate Fresk. So I'm just proposing also all the people maybe online and here in this audience to, if you're interested and if you're from the university sector, don't hesitate to come to us. Thank you very much to every speaker. We now have actually at least 10 minutes of questions and answers. I would like to know maybe first if there are questions in the audience on site. And yes.
So I was wondering, in the 3-hour workshop, are there any tools, physical tools that you'll be required to use, or is it, do you require any material before the starting of the workshop, or it can be implemented without any?
Okay, so we have 2 types of workshops, the online and the in-person one. We provide all the material, so yes, the material needed is a 1x2 piece of paper. 1 meter by 2 meters. The cards, some pencils, colors, and maybe tape, so we can tape on our fresco and yeah, and do all the artwork. But when you do the workshop and then become a facilitator, you will find all the information on the website, and you will find a lot of Telegram loops with all the facilitators from all around the world, where you can ask all your questions and share the knowledge with the fellow frescoers from everywhere.
Yes, maybe we can just elaborate on the fact, because we did not precise that the game is open source, so anyone can use it for free when you don't get paid to facilitate a workshop. That's why for universities it's so cheap or even free. And my colleague just here is going to show you what you really need to do the Climate First workshop is those cards that you can find online and print yourself as well. Yeah, another question?
Hi, I am Dr. Anuragdeep. I'm from UNESCO MGIEP. We work in this climate change education sector, and my colleague Dr. Ananya Rao is also the one who created online course. So we would be interested in using this, and the most important aspect of our course is free of cost and certified, self-paced, and there are online component, completely online, but this would be a good in addition to our online component. And currently we are working across 110 countries of the world, and there are 50,000 students. So I would love to know more and play with this. Yeah.
All right, sorry. Maybe after we finish, we have a Climate Fest quiz outside. We can play with you and show you how it works. And definitely would be grateful if you deploy our tool in your program.
And the other thing is that the beauty of, like, I've done both the online workshop and the offline workshop. I know UNESCO has the network to do this offline. The beauty of it is that as you grow a community of facilitators, especially in a specific country, they have the local context. They can help people draw the lines between their lived experience of climate change, which is always way stronger than just things that they've read about or heard about, which is why facilitator-based activities tend to strike stronger and be more relatable. And then you can help people, it helps people feel ownership of this issue, because they see and express how it affects them in their lives, and how it affects, I know it sounds ridiculous, but I'm Egyptian. When we talk about melting glaciers, no one, it's not relatable. But when we talk about the cycle of crops changing due to changes in weather, or hot and cold flashes, or when we talk about water, it's much, much more relatable. Saltwater intrusion, if people are from the north of Egypt, even inside the country, regionally, if someone is from a region, they've felt and can relate to the people that they've lived experience with better than someone from outside of it. And I think that's one of the biggest strengths of this tool, is that it gives the space for something that's standardized and has any validity, or has proven that it's effective, and marries that with a community component and a relatability component, where people actually interact on something that they need to learn about together and voice their concerns together. And then, as Nancy was saying, the emotional part, a lot of people take this workshop and it affects them in different ways. So when they talk about solutions, or solutions that happen regionally, they have, they can critique them. They can think about, okay, this creates a bridge or a solution for these three things that I deeply care about, and I want to engage with it, or I want to become a facilitator because I believe that the first thing that we need to do is educate everyone. And this goes back to the hands concept, something that they feel they can do to be effective. And when you're talking about UNESCO and you want people to engage with education and science, if we only engage scientists or academics in the process, we're losing the conversation. It's not fast enough.
Thank you. Can I just maybe... I think it's great if we can continue this conversation. I just would like to come back to Dr. Geistinger, if you are still online, because I cut you at the beginning. And since we have some more time, I would like to give you the opportunity to say a few words again about the Mehmet project, Dr. Anita Geistinger, but if this is possible and if you like to. And I think you are on mute. Yeah, you are still mute, so you should unmute yourself and we will hear you. Good. You should be perfect.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Well, in fact, our project is officially finished now, but we are at the moment in the evaluation process, and we're doing some self-evaluation, and also we have some external evaluator. And with that, we hope to improve the master program that we have established. There's always some changes necessary and do some adaptations. And what we want to have is, even if the program or the project is finished, we want to keep it sustainable for the future. We want the universities to go on, not to stop now. That's what we are actually working on now, because we want to have the masters sustainable, and therefore also our environment sustainable. That is the main issue of the whole project.
Thank you very much, Dr. Geistinger. Are there any other questions in the audience? Or yeah, please.
Thank you. Shall I introduce myself?
Yes, please.
Okay, my name is Karine Rosenthal. We are coming from the Paris One University. So higher education is our subject. Regarding your presentation of this fresque, I wonder, it seems that you have a large community. Do you make statistics about it? Do you do follow-up? Do you do, because you say it's a good experience, etc. I wonder if for some people it's not increasing eco-anxiety. And there's another thing that I would like to raise in your presentation. You said that you are not giving lectures, but on the other hand, you say you inform people. So where is the limit? Sorry. Thank you.
But speak on the in the mic, even if you... Farah, yeah.
So, yes, the cards that you have in your hand are all based on the IPCC reports. So each card of these, it's a topic in the climate change, and how we do it when we don't lecture people, we just walk them through the cards that has all the information, the basic information, because Climate Fresque, we can play it with professionals and with people who know nothing about climate change. So there's a topic, and you will find some graphs from the IPCC as well. Depending on the knowledge of the person, we start making them go through the phases of the game. Why we do this? Because people learn better and more when they do mistakes and when they read for themselves. And this is the collaborative part that we talked about, the collaborative intelligence. Is that there's how people play it. It's a group from 4 to 8 people. They get to talk together, decide for themselves how to place the cards, and start a discussion about the cards. So basically, this is how it goes. And then the facilitator at the end of each set, okay, he asks people to present. And then if there is any wrong information, we correct it based on this. And by the way, we are not climate scientists. We all learned the game this way, and from the game we started the self-learning journey. Yes, and this happens with the people that we train to become facilitators, and this is why the tool is very growing exponentially, and it's very strong in terms of You are the person who decides for yourself to learn, go through the science, connect everything together, and as well as Farah said, everyone living somewhere, they experience something that we are displaying in the cards. So for example, when I played with people from Alexandria, they always link to sea level rise because they see it firsthand. So this is basically the dynamics of the game.
And can I maybe just take my moderator's hat off and speak as Climate First team as well? To answer concretely your question, the part about eco-anxiety, we are really aware of this, and especially in the younger generations, we are all concerned. But in the broad audience as well. That's why the third part of the workshop is the most important, as Nancy presented. Because we don't want to let the people go out and just being overwhelmed with any potential consequences that are already happening and that will be even more extreme in the next days, in the next years. So that's why the debrief part is important. That's why it's also empowering in the way that we talk about solutions, and not we as Climate First facilitators, but the people in the workshop. And to come back on the empowerment topic, so we are not climate scientists, we as facilitators, we are facilitators, so just making the communication and the group dynamic smoother so that people can experience this. And for us, it's empowering because you have a training of 3 hours, and after you can be also like a leader in your little communities and networks and be the one who spreads the word. So that's how we see the empowerment, and that's also how we try to not let people totally powerless when they go out of our workshop.
We agree. Eco-anxiety and climate change anxiety is a very big issue, but it's also a very realistic issue. We should be anxious as a population on this planet, but what we try to do through the solutions is to encourage them to look for the solutions that they can connect with. So if you think that the first thing that needs to happen is for everyone to feel as anxious as us, then you're probably going to be pushing the education one. If you look at that map and find that there's a part of you, the map being the fresque after it's done, there's a part of you that I personally work in eco-education and like to work on getting people to believe that we can create beautiful things. So I teach about nature conservation, I teach about nature-based solutions, I teach about biomimicry, which is nature-inspired solutions. And this is how I get people to balance between their eco-anxiety and knowing that the life is resilient and the planet is resilient. So we must be resilient by looking for solutions that we care about. If we sit there in anxiety, nothing will happen.
Thank you very much, Farah. I think we are running out of time, and perfectly on time. Thank you very much for your questions. I thank specifically all the speakers who were here online. Thank you very much for your participation. And a big thank you again to the Pavilion. I invite you all to stay maybe outside a bit to try the quiz, but also maybe exchange contacts with the speakers that were online. We can also exchange some information and ideas. Thank you again, and have a nice last day at COP. Thank you.